Hello guys, welcome back to another live Q&A segment on Carnivore Muscle Ramblings on my YouTube channel. Thank you today for Jerome for joining me on your much awaited for 20th birthday party.
Sorry, I had a secondary window open and I was getting a lot of audio and I wasn't sure where it was coming from at first. So, we're good now. We're good.
Anyway, I'm celebrating your 20th birthday party.
Oh no, 38. But as Indiana Jones once said, it's not the years, it's the mileage. So I'm pretty low mileage.
The mileage, yeah.
Or however the hell right. However you guys measure distance over in your corner of the world.
You're proposing the fact that we're not using liters to measure distance.
Yeah. I'm going to play the dumb stereotypical American and insist that everybody comport to our standards for literally everything. It's like when I make fun of you for not speaking proper American English.
I love how you actually notice that.
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. We've got 3 people live in the chat, which is not very much for a, was it a Monday? Not good. Not good today. Hopefully more will pile in as the minutes go on.
That's true.
Anyway.
That's why we have a stockpile of questions.
I'll probably skip through the chat very quickly. Yeah. I'm looking at the chat. Can you guys see and hear us okay? It seems to be airing live on my end, on Jerome's end, so if you can see and hear us, let us know.
I have a second window open, and it looks like I don't have the audio on, but it looks like a video is up. And okay, I just tested it. Audio sounds good too.
Okay, nice.
It should be good.
Oh, cool.
I think the iguanas are messing with Rick again, trying to kill him.
I think what happens as well is when you have someone's live video ready to air, so you know when it says notify me when someone starts, 2 minutes left until video premieres or whatever. Sometimes if you do that, it leaves it and it just hangs. And it's not until like minutes later it catches up. So that's happened when I've watched Bart's lives before, so it might be that gotcha. Rick's experiencing that. Anyway, Kyle said, happy birthday, Jerome. Excellent.
Thank you, Kyle. Thank you.
Happy birthday again.
Thank you, Zbigniew.
I just keep reminding you.
I will try and have a super
happy birthday again. Excellent.
Thanks, Andre. Yeah, zero debt. It's one thing I've done right is I have zero debt personally or with my business. Yeah,
I have zero debt as well, apart from a student loan, which I might never pay back. But outside of that, I'm not in debt, so I don't. No one's chasing me for money, basically. But at the same time, I've got next to no capital to really buy anything. So you know how it is. I think it's better to be that way than have people knocking at your door. You know.
Yeah.
Nice studio, Jonathan. That's me. Yeah, I spent a lot of time today with 2 packs of blue tack. Lots of black paper, which is what's behind me. It's thick paper, not the cheap stuff. And loads of foam pads, which you'll see to the right of me here. So the aim is just to improve the audio quality just a little bit, but I don't seem to have much reverberation in this room. But now I've got like lights in front of me and all sorts of things. There's probably more to go wrong, but we'll see. We'll see.
And if you guys only knew the amount of time that Jonathan and I spent adjusting that one light on his microphone stand right before we went live today. Like we tested out just about every single position with that bad boy.
Packs a punch as well. Yeah, we weren't sure if it's here. I look a bit too red, but if it's up there, it gives a nice bit of coloration to the background, I think. For some people, presentation's important, so I'm not really someone that minds that much. I don't care as long as I can hear someone, but some people just like to see stuff, don't they? So, you know, you've got to try and appeal to a wider audience. Right. Question from Kyle. My muscles are burning out doing yoga now. Shoulders all fatigued, just holding a short plank. Never had this problem before. Very frustrated. What could this indicate? No change in strength or size. It could be your shoulders just aren't used to it. Perhaps you have an issue of blood flow in that area. Perhaps there's some kind of impingement. I honestly couldn't speculate. It could just be at this time that you're sleeping on your shoulder at night and that's causing a lot of blood flow issues. I mean, I have that in my right shoulder right now. It's trashed. The other day I couldn't lift anything in the gym. I did a hammer strength shoulder press with no weight for 100 repetitions. Couldn't lift anything. So yeah, it could be lots of different things. What do you think, Jerome? It might be an obvious solution here. I don't know.
I'd be curious if the yoga is a recent addition to all the other physical activity and resistance training that you're doing. And if that's the case, my first thought was your shoulders might just be heavily fatigued from everything else that you're doing. Shoulders are synergists in almost every single upper body movement. Every time you push, pull, or there's any articulation of the arm at all, your shoulders are involved. So my first thought is they're just fatigued from everything else that you're doing, and that's becoming a little bit more prominent when you're doing certain yoga poses. So that'd be my first guess. Let me know further in the comments if you haven't changed your routine at all, and this just seems like a recent addition, or maybe if you've added yoga in or have switched something else up. I'd be a little curious about that.
Okay, brilliant. That's good to hear. Yeah, apologies if there are video or audio breaks from my end. I think it's a signal thing today. That's what my guess is, but I'm not certain. But yeah, this quality should be fine. It shouldn't be clipping or doing any kind of crazy things. How do I know that? I spent an hour or two adjusting it today, like I always do. So, listening back, had my friend Matthew listening back to audio clips, checking it, demo versions, all sorts of things. So yeah, hopefully it should be okay. I've had to change actually some settings because my voice is very bad, so it should pick up sound a bit differently to usual. Okay. Yeah. Cheers for the feedback, guys. I appreciate that. Thank you for letting us know.
Thank you,
lovely, Jerome, again.
Thank you.
Incredible. Yeah, Sophie might join a little bit later, guys. So if you do have any questions directed just towards her, perhaps, maybe at the end if she pops by, you might be able to ask them then. So, yeah, studio doesn't need to cost the earth. Yeah. Yeah, thank you for stopping by, Richard. I appreciate you being here. It doesn't, no, but I worked it out today and it is significantly more than what I thought a studio would cost. So I won't say how much it was, but it was money, but I think it's a very much worthwhile investment. And hopefully now I'm at the point where people will stop laughing at me for making terrible videos. Jennifer's had a kind mention to you again as well there. Brilliant. Well, that's a good question.
Yeah.
Oh, we'll ignore that for now. Got a question from Kyle.
Yep.
It isn't just my shoulders, legs, back, etc. Doing simple moves is making my muscles hurt. Walking up steps is making my quads burn, almost like I'm burning out or something. I don't effing know. Interesting. That reminds me of the experiences I've had for quite a long time. It kind of matches like fibromyalgia symptoms. Hopefully it isn't that, and I don't think it is that. I'm just saying, but it does sort of match those sort of symptoms. I think you could just be tired, Carl, and I think that, like Jerome said earlier, you might just be doing too much in one go. I really think that. I mean, look at your diet again. I mean, consider how much fat you're eating. I understand you're eating, I believe it is, I think you said somewhere between 140 and 160 fat, something like that, 140, 180 fat. That may not also be enough. Track your body weight, your body fat. If things are happening from time to time where you're dropping more weight, your sleep's getting worse, your skin's getting dry, you're constipated, you're not going very frequently to the bathroom, then that could all be things to suggest to me that you probably aren't eating enough fat. What do you think, Jerome, with that extra additional information?
Yeah, the first thought is I would consider maybe taking a week off of strength training, or maybe even all of the activities that you can that still let you feel like you're having a quality of life that you want to have. I used to program in a full week off of all strength training once every 8 to 12 weeks or so, and I would always come back significantly stronger. So, yeah, kind of leaning on what Jonathan said. My first thought is there's just some kind of systemic fatigue, and you probably just need to give your body a bit of a break. People are very quick to underestimate just how demanding the effects of proper exercise actually are on the body. You're imposing a massive physical stress if you're doing your strength training correctly. And depending on what else you're doing outside of that, the body does have a very limited capacity to recover from any physical stress. So I would, my first thought is just take a little bit of time off the gym, maybe take a whole week and just go for light walks, maybe keep up the yoga if you want to, but keep your physical activity really light, very easy on, the 1 to 10 scale of physical exertion, and kind of ease back into it and see how it goes from there.
That's a good suggestion. Yeah, it's always hard to tell people sometimes that they need to step back and do less. People always do more, but I mean, I've looked at some of my measurements, and some of the people actually in my Facebook page, the private paid membership group, the Carnivore crew, they were privy to some screenshots today where I sort of shown my transformation, so to speak, in terms of my my Renfo bioimpedance scales. I've gained nearly 2 kilos of muscle in about 2 months, and that's still with quite a limited training capacity. I've gained some body fat, but not too much, like enough to say, okay, I need to calm it down a bit now. But the addition of the extra food, recovering properly, like Jerome said, take an extra day or two. It's not going to kill your gains. And I think I'm looking back now, thinking how much quicker I could have progressed in my bodybuilding, muscle size development kind of stages of my career, and I thought, yeah, I could have gained more muscle probably if I just took a step back, got out of my own way, and just let my body recover and rest.
Mm-hmm. I think about that too, and I've never been a big high volume trainer. Max OT was the most volume I've ever done on a consistent basis, and it was 5 to 7 sets of muscle group in 5 days a week. It was a full body split every 5 days, and that ended up being too much for me. And there's a big genetic component to that. So yeah, I strongly recommend taking at least a couple of days off and pay attention to some of the subjective areas of your life too. How's your sleep? How are you feeling? Do you feel a little bit run down? Take a close look at diet, like Jonathan said. There's a lot of pieces in this puzzle.
We'll go to this next part of this question because it seems to be relevant. We can string it all together very easier that way. I'm definitely not getting any weight or extra muscle. It'd really get in my head if I took any more than a week off. I don't handle it well, like it's going to be bad for my health.
Sure.
Yeah. Like Jerome kind of just said, I'll take that on board. So just scale back the intensity, scale back the volume. If you're going 100% intensity for an hour, try doing 40 minutes at 70% intensity. Just take it easy a bit. There's probably something going on here. And if you're saying you're not gaining any weight or extra muscle, err on the side of eating a bit more. It's probably fat you might be lacking. But like we said, look at your subjective measures and how you're feeling in general. And then from there, make a change to your diet, reduce the training output. If you're really struggling, like you're thinking, I can't gain any weight, really scale things back and increase food. Of course, do anything I recommend or Jerome recommends incrementally. Don't do massive changes overnight. And just see where you land. It might be that fine tweaking kind of sweet spot you need to get to. So, yeah, I think that's probably all we'll have to be able to cover for that one, because I think it will be a consultation kind of situation. If that doesn't really answer the question, I think.
Yeah. And know that
the question, shall we?
The muscle's not going to go anywhere. A lot of people think if they take a week off, they'll lose all their gains. And certainly past some threshold, you're going to experience a loss in strength. But even that loss of strength doesn't always necessitate a loss in muscle mass. It's sometimes that neuromuscular pathway just doesn't get worked as often, and you lose a little bit of efficiency in that regard. So if that helps, but I totally understand the feeling of the benefits of frequent exercise for your mental and emotional health. So even if you looked at, I'm just going to go through the gyms, not push anything to failure, and just kind of go through the motions, just make sure I'm keeping up on my form and kind of keeping this groove greased. I think dialing it back a little bit is probably a good idea. But if you need that for your mental consistency, then yeah, just dial back the intensity a bit.
Yeah, perfect advice. Thank you. Carl just said he appreciated the advice, so appreciate you coming on. So great question. Right, we'll go back to Zbignev's question. Indirect effect. I'm curious how potent it can be. It's just so interesting how the body works. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Jerome. I'm assuming he's talking about working secondary movers in a given movement, and how you get muscular tension through them. So I'm thinking that he's basically asking, is it that a lat pull down, for example, works primarily the lat muscles, but then the biceps also come into it? Is that what he's asking?
That's a good question. I was seeing it more along the lines of like Arthur Jones in, I think, the first Nautilus bulletins suggested that if you work one area, the muscles around that area will experience some growth, even if they're not directly worked. So Jones would speculate that like heavy leg presses or squats done with a high degree of intensity would cause some degree of growth in the calves, even though the calves, contract a little bit isometrically, but don't really function much in those movements. So I thought that's more of where he was going with that.
I see. Yeah.
So I guess, but to answer the first part, the way that you saw the question, those basic compound pushing and pulling movements, if the function of a muscle is addressed in that movement, that muscle is going to be worked. Now, whether the question of is it worked sufficiently? I tend to lean yes if you're able to push those sets hard enough. So a lat pull down or an underhand pull down still involves elbow flexion. So the biceps are going to be involved. It still has some degree of scapular retraction. So you're going to hit everything in your rotator cuff and your rear delts. And I tend to think as long as you're pushing those sets hard enough or close to the point of concentric or technical failure, there will at least be some benefit in those muscle groups. Maybe not an ideal stimulus, but you should see some benefit from that.
I see. Yeah, I think the same. And I think in regards to the, I'm guessing the question he actually asked, which you outlined, we know there's studies, for example, on people that train legs prior to training biceps versus just training legs. There seems to be some kind of systemic effect where very distant body parts, in regards to the initial body part that you're training, seem to get some kind of muscular development. I think that is true. I think it wouldn't make sense biologically or evolutionary to just have big legs or just big calves. I think a lot comes into it. And we've got to think about as well as the movement you're actually doing. If you're doing a leg extension, a leg press, a squat of any kind, near enough, your biceps, in that example that I just gave, will come into it. You'll hold yourself into leg press. You hold yourself into the leg extension machine. You'll have the bar on your back like that. Oh, cramp. Trim back to that. You know what I mean? So I don't think it's too far-fetched to believe that other muscle groups will be trained and developed because of it. I kind of think how it comes back to like people talking about like, the big three or the big five movements, different sort of overall body movements. We can look at powerlifters and virtually none of them really do much accessory work. I mean, it's not a mainstay of their program. It's not, they're just focused about a few big movements. So I'm thinking there, they still have like relatively big arms. It just comes to refinement and getting a bit extra somewhere. But I guess it comes down as well to recovery ability. Like I know Jerome and I have been discussing off air about the use of different ancillary kind of movements, the secondary movements, you know, the more simple movements in some respects, and how they come into play in a beginner's program, for example. It's very hard to say. I mean, in bodybuilding, there's not many people out there with arms that are too big. So thinking it from that regard, is it that we should still train them until they're really big? Like I seldom see bodybuilders on the Olympia stage with arms too big. There's been people over time with like massive arms, you know, notably Phil Heath, I don't know, Ronnie Coleman, Jay Cutler, Lee Priest, I don't know, Kevin Averoni. There's different people, but it's not often. So it makes me kind of think, yeah, if you can train arms and you can get a benefit from it, do it. But ultimately, the most benefit you're going to get from training is going to be through the main movements. So yeah, definitely focus on those. And, you know, if it comes a time where someone's got a weak point as a result of not training the secondary body parts, then perhaps add in some isolation. Not even a lot. For example, today I did, I'm going to guess about 7 or 8 sets for back. I did 3 sets for biceps. So not a total lot of volume compared to a lot of people train like nowadays. So yeah, I think there's value to adding extra movements, but I don't think it's the most important thing. It becomes more important as you become more advanced and you can sort of pinpoint what your weak points are, I think.
Yep.
Do you have anything to add to that, Jerome?
No, I would speculate a bit that how you mentioned if you train legs before you train biceps, like myokines that are released by muscles have an autocrine, a paracrine, and an endocrine function. They trigger their own pathways with an autocrine function. They trigger some localized things with a paracrine function, and they're released into the bloodstream and go to the whole body, which is an endocrine function. It goes everywhere in the body. So it stands to reason that training one area could improve overall things as a whole to a really slight extent. I think it kind of superficially makes sense. Now, I could be very wrong with that speculation. So I think that the bigger question is, you know, are you basically training everything, you know, more or less over some fixed amount of time? Like you said, we've talked a lot about some of these ancillary movements, and calves is maybe a great example. Calves aren't directly worked in a leg press, but do I think some people could get calf growth by just doing squats and leg presses? Yeah, I've seen it in clients. I've seen it in multiple clients. But is it ideal? You know, is it going to give you the best stimulus? Probably not. And that you're probably better off working some slight degree of some of those more accessory movements, at least here and there, once you become a little bit more intermediate, and definitely when you're advanced.
That's a good shout. Very good. I'm just going to whiz through some of the extra comments right now. Let Jerome and I catch our breaths a little bit. Guys, my voice is seriously messed up. Like, that's why I'm not talking too much.
Yeah. Well, I'll read the questions when you put them on the screen. I was kind of being a dick and like purposefully not reading them when you first put them up, but I should probably be nice.
Oh, cheers for that. Yeah, Sophie's going to laugh at me.
Happy to catch a little of this live before the stream. Awesome.
Yeah, I think he's the other side of the globe, so appreciate he's managed to find time to make it on before work.
Yep, that was Zbigniew's question that we just asked. But Sophie, thank you. We try hard to not let anything kind of fall through the net.
I think Sophie made a mistake. I've just looked back. Sophie made a terrible mistake.
Oh?
Yeah, I just looked through the chat, unless it came up in the wrong order for some reason. I don't know. Oh, okay, we got a question here from Rick.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, that's my cue. We know the carnivore diet is beneficial, but besides exercise and training, do you think that lifestyle as it relates to stress or living conditions is also important? I only seem to feel my best at home. What do you think, Jonathan?
That's a very good question. That kind of comes back to my slogan again, aligning physique goals with positive health outcomes. And like we always talk about Bart K's 5 health hacks. So, doing what Jerome and I are doing, trying to develop your body, build muscle, lose fat, whatever it is, it's going to become more important as you get further down the line of those health hacks. When you've got the carnivore diet nailed down, which I'm sure you have, Rick, then you can look towards other things. So getting sunlight exposure at the appropriate times of the day, which you do. You live in sunny Florida, you're outside all day, so that's fine. The other things, reducing EMF exposure. To my knowledge, you don't actively use a cell phone, so that probably reduces one of those issues. To my understanding as well, you don't use a lot of technology. I know that you like to do things more, you're more practical. So you've also kind of reached that that benchmark or that goalpost, which is great. So I think yourself using those hacks has been very beneficial. Saying that as well, I think that some people just are best suited at home. Like myself, Sophie will take me out in the car for a day trip, like give me an airing. But then, I mean, Jerome might be different. I don't know. What do you think, Jerome? On that note, we're going to add Sophie to the stream now.
I was trying to read her expression when you brought her name up. I'm thinking, like, how much trouble is Jonathan about to get in here?
Take him for an outing. Some fresh air and a drink.
Sleep and lifestyle are criminally underrated in terms of overall health and well-being. I haven't had a good night's sleep in probably almost a year now with some things in my life and opening this business and a lot of stress with those factors. And sunshine here in Wisconsin, at least the winters seem to run about 6 or 7 months and skies are gray most of those days. And I know a lot of people that get seasonal affective disorder and they don't get a lot of sun. And to me, I know that it's somewhat subjective and subject to my own biases, but I feel best on the days that I can get outside and get some sun on my skin for, 30, 60 minutes a day. And my ex-wife used to get it like really, really bad in winter. She would get, I'm not diagnosing her, but she would get almost depressed in winter. And it was really, really hard for a couple of months every single year that we were together. And I'm thinking sunshine makes a big difference. I'm happy you're down in Florida. I'm envious in that regard. I desperately can't wait to move someplace warm into where I can get warm sun on fresh skin every single day. But if you don't, if you don't have the energy, it's going to be a lot harder to go to the gym, and it's going to be a lot easier to want to eat things that you maybe shouldn't eat. And it's going to be harder to be motivated to really implement change in a positive way with things that you want to do in your life. So yeah, those lifestyle factors are huge.
Sophie, what do you think about that? So how significant is reducing stress, improving living conditions in regards to the whole spectrum of things and how it fits together? Do you think that exercise and training is really that big of a deal? Is it something that people have to do, or is it just an add-on at the end of the funnel sort of thing?
I mean, I don't think it's what they have to do, but I do think people would feel better to do it. Even if it's a simple go for a walk, get out the house. Obviously, if the weather's nice, go outside. I mean, I'm quite surprised that the sun is shining at 7:30 UK time right now. But I think it's a good thing to kind of get out, because I think when you've had a stressful time, whether it's, work, home, whatever it is, if you just step outside, like step out of the situation, out of the environment, you feel a lot better. And I know that when I work out, I feel a lot better afterwards. I could have had a really crap day. The kids could have been whinging at me all the time. Jonathan could have been moaning at me all day because he's had not had his food. And I get in the gym and I feel much better after the gym.
There's no butter bites left in the fridge.
What a surprise. Because that's my time for me to kind of release all the energy that I have built up and just let all my stress out into the gym. Hence, you know, the hideous gym faces that we all make. That's helps to get them out. But yeah, I think it's beneficial. It may not be completely necessary, but I do think people should at least try. And I think, especially when the weather's good, it makes a big impact on people's like mental health, I think.
I might give you guys my my own anecdote on this. So in the summer of 2020 here in England, it was really hot. It was sunny and baking for like weeks. In that time I was working, I think 50-hour weeks in the health food shop. And I was managing a job under a very high stress level in the middle of a global situation, let's just put it that way. And it was very stressful, very, 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 very stressful. It was a point where I was managing a shop of, it was understaffed severely, let's put it that way. I had a lot of stock to put out, and I'd have to do that whilst managing the phones, responding to emails, taking in and out orders, and doing all kinds of like shop stuff. It was insane. It got to the point that I was carrying the phone for the shop around in my pocket while speaking to customers whilst putting out stock at the same time. It's not a nice situation to be in when someone's coming to you for advice and you physically don't have the hours in the day to provide them with good, solid advice that shows you care and that sort of thing. It was not a nice situation to be in. And a couple of times I managed to find myself about a 20-minute period over that span of a few months, every lunchtime sometimes, and I'd get some sunlight. In that time I felt miles better. I was actively trying to get and reach more and more sunlight. But that was a point where my mental health was bad. That's where I was quite bad for eating off plan and that sort of thing, not very sensible about my diet. I'd go to the shop and get a meal deal, just do what was easy because I was so stressed. So I think if you can reduce the toxic stress that we get, the distresses in our life, I think that you can start to add things on as time goes on, all the biohacks that we talk about. And I think there's always a case to be made for a good, better and best case scenario. I think a lot of people just do what's good. Some people do a bit better, some people do what's best. And I think there's a fine line between doing what's best and living in perpetual anxiety. I always imagine of guys like Ben Greenfield that are like biohackers, like if they're looking to achieve everything they want to and do anti-aging and all that sort of thing, they're going to be going out of their way so much in their life, which detracts from so many experiences they might have because they are ultimately chasing longevity and health. And I think that can be negatively impactful in itself. So I think the best advice I'd give to anyone is do what you can that is possible for you, that makes sense, that aligns with what you're able to achieve and do each day. I'd definitely focus on that kind of thing. And that's kind of where I come in, Sophie comes in, Jerome comes in, carnivore, bodybuilding, recomposition kind of people. We're kind of at the end of that tunnel where you can sort of say, okay, I've reached everything else. Now I want a bit more. I want to be strong. I want to live better. I want to not have excess body fat. That's kind of where that thing comes along. So there's levels to it in a sense. And I think that ultimately, if you want to reach the max level and get the king boss, the big boss in the level that you're trying to defeat, then you're going to add in training at some point. I think that's the ultimate goal. I think. I don't think anyone, as they are walking around in a standard Western lifestyle, at least, is going to be as strong as they can be. Yeah.
And just kind of as you were talking about stresses, I'm kind of slowly, I don't know whether it's a motto, I don't know what the right word is, but I'm slowly trying to teach myself you can't control everything, and there's no point stressing about the things that you can't control. Focus on the things that you can control, and I think you'd be much happier.
Have you been reading Meditations by Marcus Aurelius?
No, I don't read.
Okay.
I don't have time to read.
It's kind of that's almost an axiomatic principle in Stoicism.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, very
I've
good.
listened to some
Very good.
like,
Very good.
motivation
Excellent ramble. We'll answer some questions from Andre today. There we go.
All right. Do you guys see significant benefits on scheduling a week off training a couple of times in a year? Would you increase volume in the week before and do a so-called deload week or a week off? Which one of you guys wants that one first?
I feel like
what do you think?
really answered this. I feel like I've already heard it. I think, yeah, it is beneficial to schedule in a week off training. And I wouldn't do anything different kind of before or after, just your standard. So I know that when I started working out, you know, I'd get to the point where my reps weren't improving or the weight wasn't improving. And I know Jonathan said, just take a couple of days off, take a week off, let your body relax, and then go back into it and you'll be surprised. And to be fair, it worked. I managed to up the reps and then I managed to up the weight like the following week. So it's definitely beneficial. I think, Jerome, you said earlier in this live chat, maybe like every 8 to 12 weeks you plan like a week off kind of thing.
Yeah, that's how I've done it in the past. I tend to think those are really easily implemented into somebody's schedule. If somebody takes vacation or around the holidays, it's easy sometimes to just, you know, take Thanksgiving or Christmas week off of the gym. So I don't even think you necessarily have to try and schedule those and really program those in anymore the way that I used to. Now, when those sorts of things come up, I generally recommend that, you know, just enjoy your holiday week. Don't try and do everything you can to schedule a hotel that has a gym that's pretty decent. And then in almost every instance in my own N=1 experience and clients that I've had, almost everybody always comes back stronger after a prolonged period. I've had clients here in my studio that, due to, you know, one scheduling issue or another, sometimes only make it in every third week or every fourth week in some instances. And even with that prolonged layoff, they're still stronger than their previous workout. So don't let it drive you crazy, and don't feel bad if you need to take a little bit of time off to rest your body.
That's good advice. I have a contradictory point of view from what Sophie said.
What a shock.
So now she mentioned that I said to have a few days or a week off. Now, in this case, yes, I did say that. She is correct. There's a caveat to me saying it to her in the context of what my answer will be. For me, it's better for me, in Sophie's case, it's better for me to say, Sophie, take a few days or a week off, rather than her trying to cram in some workouts in a short period of time, in days which were perhaps very long, tiring, stressful. So a bit like how Jerome said, I wouldn't deliberately schedule time off for the sake of time, like 6 weeks on, 1 week off or whatever. What Jerome's saying is, you have Christmas with family. The gym is closed. The gym has short opening hours. Maximize what you can do with family and all the extra things that are enjoyable to you, and don't stress about not being present at the gym in that time. Personally, myself and my brother, we do not miss training sessions unless we have to. Saying that on the same token, if I am feeling rough that day, I will take that day off. If I'm thinking, okay, I feel really rough, this is going to be a few days, I'll think, okay, I'm probably going to take the next day off. I'll play it by pretty much the proximity of the day before. Now, like Jerome also correctly outlined, you will not lose muscle if you take a week or two of training. I'd say past 2 weeks training, you might lose some stability gains, some mobility. The balance side of things may be a bit lesser. I don't think the muscle gains will be any less. I don't think muscle just drops off your body like that. And in some cases, taking extra time might be just what you need. If you can't listen to your body, if you don't have a good coach like myself or Jerome, then you perhaps won't know or realize when you actually are overtraining. You won't pick up on the fact that you've had a niggling shoulder injury for a few weeks. You know, you'll still be trying to persist through it. So the way I probably look at it for most people is train as you can and try and fit in a schedule which works for you. Try and have some kind of auto-regulation in your training itself. Now, if I said to anyone, train really hard for 10 weeks, go to failure in every set, there'll be some point along that something bad may or may not happen. It's probably likely it will. You might just be better off having 2 days in that period, or a week, or 7 or 8 days worth of time where your training sessions are a bit lesser. So like we mentioned to Kyle earlier, you might actually reduce your training volume or intensity, or a mixture of both in that time. The indication for needing time off is like I just outlined, like you have a niggling injury, your recovery is not good, your appetite's all over the place, you're tired, you're moody, you're irritable, your joints ache, there's some sort of issue there. So that's kind of when you'd kind of pick up on that as early as possible and auto-regulate your training from that point. So that's why I'm not personally a fan of taking deliberate, timed or scheduled periods of time off. Do you guys have anything to add to that, or anything that contradicts what my opinion is? Or
no, I want to just be difficult, but I have no idea.
I was laughing initially when you said you had a point of view that kind of contradicted Sophie, because I just imagined her next time she sees you just whapping you upside the back of the head for disagreeing.
Although I have got on camera that he has said I'm right, and I've got that in recording.
Excellent. Yeah, clip that and hold on to that. Because
delete.
Cut. No, we don't edit these. We don't edit them.
No, these go out as they are.
But no, I agree.
I just tried to make good clips tonight, that's all.
Yeah, I've not scheduled time off. It's just been that I've either been poorly, or I just haven't been able to make
days
it. Yeah, whether it's family events or the kids or whatever it may be that I just couldn't get to it, then I've just thought it's fine, I'll take the time off. But I don't think I've ever actually gone, okay, in 2 weeks' time I'm going to take a week off.
Yeah.
Because I think I'm getting like Jonathan, where I want to train all the time, but I know that if I'm stressed out, tired, it's just going to be a rubbish session, and I'm just going to be annoyed at myself. So.
Excellent.
That's a good shout.
Andre says
Andre had
sorry.
the Max OT program when he was in college over 10 years ago. Skip LaCour and Jeff Willett. I know you're a fan of Skip LaCour, and Jeff Willett, I believe, was a natural pro bodybuilder. I should know more about these guys, but I don't know a lot about them, admittedly. I think it's just kind of a bit before my generation in terms of training years. So what do you know about them, Jerome? What can you say about that?
I'm guessing Andre and I are probably pretty close to the same age. So I first stumbled upon Max OT training, right around 2003, my freshman year out at college. And Skip LaCour is one of the most structured, disciplined individuals I've ever met. This guy will take appointments anytime for his clients, and he'll wake up in the middle of the night to do his phone consultation with his client, and then go back to bed for however long he has to structure his life in a way that works for him and his family. And Jeff Willett achieved a level of conditioning that there's one video of him, and I'm sure the lighting is perfect, but this is the leanest I've ever seen an individual. And both are apparently natural bodybuilders. Whether or not it's true, who cares? But both achieved their IFBB Pro cards by winning the NPC Team Universe bodybuilding competition, which is drug tested. Skip won it 6 times. Jeff Willett won the overall in 2003. Both were huge influences early on me. I basically, when I first seriously got into bodybuilding, I said, okay, I'm natural. So who are the biggest, best conditioned natural bodybuilders out there? And these 2 names came to the top of the list pretty quick. And holy cow, look at that. They're sponsored by the same supplement company, and they train the same way, and they diet the same way. So I just started training that way and dieting that way, and got pretty decent results from that. But Max OT it's a 5-day-a-week split. Your workouts are 30 to 60 minutes of workout session, and each body part is worked with maybe 4 to 7 total sets. And everything is done between 4 and 6 repetitions. So mostly barbell exercises, heavy weights, a high degree of intensity, relatively limited volume, and a once a week per body part split. So in general, compared to most conventional bodybuilding programs, it's relatively brief compared to most.
That's interesting, yeah. I think that'd work for a lot of guys if they're just chronically overtraining.
Yeah. And I'll find the full link to the video, but Jeff Willett put out a movie called I Want to Look Like That Guy, where a filmmaker hired Jeff Willett to be his coach and to coach just an average, filmmaker who was working multiple jobs to see what it takes to get bodybuilding lean. So he hired Jeff to be his coach, and then they had him coach, and he documented the whole journey for 6 months of him getting contest lean, and then they cover the contest as well. And that whole documentary is available online, and it's one of my favorite movies I've ever seen about bodybuilding.
Interesting.
Oh, very good.
Thank you, Lance.
Happy birthday again, Drew.
Thanks.
It's almost like it's his birthday.
Just reminding you it's your birthday.
Yeah, thank you. I was hoping nobody would notice today.
You should wear a badge.
You didn't do very well. I checked your profile.
Yeah. Dr. Paolo Gentile, who has a lot of studies on strength and hypertrophy and has worked with James Fisher and James Steele, recommends for most people to do no more than 4 sets to failure per muscle group twice a week. So let's see. I think Sophie had the last one. Jonathan, you want first crack at that? And then
let's have a look at this question. So 4 sets. I almost feel like the better measure of training volume is over a time period itself rather than, how many times per week. I think it's better to say do 8 sets per week. I know in the context of this question, really, he's asking about what they recommend, which is 4 sets twice per week. You can split it up a number of different ways, I guess. I'm trying to think how much I do, because I think what I do is optimal. And I'd probably do about that. So, yeah, that makes sense to me if it is hard failure sets. I mean, it depends, again, how we're defining failure again. Is it concentric, the static failure, or eccentric? I think eccentric failure would probably trash you big time if you're doing 8 sets per week. I'm probably doing concentric failure with about 8 sets per week per body part, so it's even less for some of them. I've not actually read these gentlemen's discussions, but it seems to align closely with what I think. I'd say I find it useful. Yeah, what do you guys think?
Mm-hmm. Sophie, go ahead.
If I'm honest, I don't really know. I feel like I do similar to that anyway, don't I, Jonathan? Okay.
Yeah.
And it works. And I've, recently within like the last few months been training more to kind of failure as I thought I was before, but quite clear that I wasn't. So yeah, I don't really have anything to add, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. So James Fisher and James Steele put out a meta-analysis of, I think, over 140 studies called Evidence-Based Guidelines for Strength Training. And I'll link that in the comments. It's a study I pretty much always have saved. And Fisher and Steele's recommendations were pretty general, but it basically self-select repetitions, keep tension on the muscles, train to whatever you determine to be failure, and train each muscle group anywhere from 1 to 3 times a week. In terms of looking at the volume, I think as little as 1 set can be effective, and you probably top out the benefits probably at about 5 sets per workout per muscle group. That's one thing I agree with Greg Doucette on, is after about 5, maybe 7 total sets, you're probably just doing a lot of junk volume. And the way that I look at it is Dorian Yates, for most muscle groups, generally didn't do more than probably 7 total sets for a muscle group. So if you're hitting, 2 or 3 sets for a couple of different movements for a body part, especially a bigger one like the back, somewhere in that range is about right. But it kind of depends how you're counting muscle groups too. So today I had an upper body push workout that I did a chest press, a shoulder press, and a tricep extension. So you could look at that as kind of 1 set per each, but in a sense, it's 1 set for chest, 2 sets for shoulders with the shoulder press and the shoulders being involved in a chest press, and in a way, 3 sets for triceps because the triceps function in every single one of those exercises. So did I do 1 set per body part or 3? Well, kind of just depends on how you define those terms. So as a general guideline, it's probably about right. It's going to depend how hard you work those sets. Anywhere from, 1 to 7 sets per body part per workout is probably a decent range.
Now you mention it as well, Jerome, I think now I kind of need to include the work I was doing to ancillary muscle groups, the secondary movers. I actually did, of my 8 sets I did today for back and 3 for biceps, 2 of my back exercises were actually rear delts, really. It's just how I tie them into my workouts usually. Yeah. So typically if you're talking about lat and rhomboid trap movements, it was actually about 6 sets. So yeah, kind of makes sense. Saying that, I probably would have done 7 if I had a better right shoulder. My right shoulder's a bit messed up at the moment, so I wasn't able to take those 2 sets of rear delt pull-throughs to failure really properly. So I kind of used volume as my little tool there, but yeah, I'd say that's quite an accurate amount. 5 to 8 sets, I think you said, per body part. Bigger body parts with more intricate pieces, more movements to be done, different angles, yeah, probably close to 8. More simple movers, 5. That's matching what I'm doing at the moment, actually, currently. So very interesting. So Jerome asked, what do you suggest if you're getting weaker using high intensity training while using failure and beyond? That includes partial reps and drop sets. Sophie, what do you think?
I mean, if you're getting weaker, then maybe you're overtraining. So maybe then you need to cut back a little bit, whether it's you cut back on volume, maybe cut back slightly on intensity, reduce, the amount of reps you do, give that a week or 2, and then kind of go back to what you were before and see if that helps with your strength. But yeah, I'd say if you're getting weaker, then you're doing too much.
Yeah, that brings me back to Mike Bentz's kind of discussion. I know Jerome was actually the gentleman to actually point this out to me. It was quite a big revelation when he explained it to me. You have a workout and you have a level of intensity you can apply to that workout. If you're applying 100% intensity to that workout in high intensity training, for example, then you're training your adaptive capacity as much as possible. There's not a way you can do more. So you're going to have a recovery pool that will be diminished as a result of that training session. You can't train really hard, really often for a long period of time. And how would you know that you're training to a high level and recovering properly? Is that what Jerome explained to me through what Mike Mentor taught was your next lifting session, you'll be either at the same weight, assuming the same standardized form and technique, or beyond. So you actually be stronger in the next session. And that seems to actually be matching what I'm experiencing now. Even as an advanced lifter, I noticed if something in my lifting performance isn't improving, I've probably not rested long enough. And earlier in this discussion, this Q&A, Jerome was explaining that it's okay to take like a week off, and oftentimes a lot of his clients will actually have that time off and come back stronger. It could have been that they've needed 10 days to recover from something like the neurological and the muscular adaptation process, but they've chronically only been taking 7 days off. So they need that extra, that extra bit of meat to bite into to sort of build upon that muscle, a bit more time. So yeah, I just want to say thank you to Jerome for explaining that to me the way he has. And that's something, it seems so obvious, but it's something people miss, especially when they're becoming more advanced. I think that's something that's definitely added to my recent progression. What do you think, Jerome?
Yeah, for somebody using set intensifiers or extenders, I think the more advanced you become, the more caution you need to, the more cautious you need to be with using them, I guess. One kind of line that I say often is for every increase in intensity, there becomes a disproportionately larger amount of time that bites into your recovery ability. So you could either look at dropping the set intensifiers or extenders, or just giving yourself more time to rest and recover. And in a lot of ways, that might be more of a lifestyle decision that, you know, you have to make. Do you want to work out once every however many days it is, or, you know, could you push that back a little bit more? Or do you enjoy the frequency? Does it fit better with, you know, your personal preferences? But yeah, you're right that if you're not making progress, that's a sign that you're not recovering enough. You know, whether diet is the cause of that, whether it's rest, whether you're doing too much volume or too much frequency, there's a lot of things that it could be. But the only objective measure of a positive carryover is going to be that next workout. Is, does your performance improve?
Very well said.
I first read HIIT as
Make
like
that
cardio.
actually.
Sorry, Sophie, what'd you say?
When I read it, I first read HIIT as cardio, and I thought, get rid of that for stars. That's your problem.
Yeah. Sorry, let me dip back into the reserve of questions.
Yeah, I've done that before, actually.
Ooh,
Yeah, while you do that, Jerome, I'm just going to read what Susie said. So, firstly, Susie, thank you for your kind words on Dave Mack's YouTube video. I appreciate that. Basically, she left a commentary about my channel, and I think also about yourself, Jerome, saying, you know, very helpful carnivore diet, exercise stuff like that. Yeah, and it doesn't surprise me, Susie, that you've got better performance now. You've took some time off and reduced the work volume, the workload that you've been doing. That's good to hear. More isn't always better.
People forget to just go back to basics, don't they? And just stick to the obvious, stick to the basics instead of trying to overcomplicate everything.
Oh, guys, I actually maxed out the row machine at the gym, the Prime, as well.
That's exciting. How did that feel?
Well, not for me, because I don't know what to do now.
Well, I mean, you could either slow your concentric down,
yeah.
Or if you have any kind of exercise band, you could use that to add some more tension to the strength curve or the resistance curve of that movement. Or you might just have to train it unilaterally and just cut the weight stack in half.
I don't know. I'm too lazy. I don't have much energy to train nowadays. Unilateral stuff isn't really. I value it, but I'm just so lazy.
Yeah, that was one problem I had when I lifted more conventionally. That quick concentric and really slow eccentrics, is I very quickly got to the point where I was maxing out most stacks, and then it's like, well, what the hell do I do now? So you either have to go to free weight movements or come up with some other adaptation.
Yeah, I think that it's. I would say I could add to the eccentric, but a rough guess, I was probably doing 3 to 4 seconds up and about 6 seconds down.
Gotcha.
So I don't know. But saying that, Jerome, to be fair, I did do about 5 or 6 reps, so it was quite light in the low rep range. So I got room to improve, and I think that going from about 6 reps or so to like 8 to 10 or something, that would be quite that's a big hit in recovery, and training. It's going to be a big challenge. So to be fair, I can still work on it. But yeah, of course, I could add in bands and things to change the resistance profile.
Another question from the pool is it okay to train my well-developed body part once per 2 weeks? Who wants this one?
I'll have a quick nab at it. I think that you can do. I know, for example, there's at least 3 professional bodybuilders that have really, really big muscular legs. One of those people was Ben Pekulski. He would train his quads in particular only every 3 weeks. He'd actually take time off training to train him every 3 weeks. And all he'd do in his dieting phase was train him every 3 weeks, but then also add in some high intensity interval training on the bike, doing like Wingate sprints and things like that. That was effectively his leg training. He didn't need lots of eccentric loading to build his quads because they're already so well developed. I think it's definitely possible. I think it is acceptable. The problem is with that is are you developed to such a point that warrants that? Is it that you're walking around and people think you're Popeye? You know, if that isn't the case, then I don't think that sort of application of methodology would apply to many people. Now, I've got quite big calves, quite big biceps, quite big lat muscles. I still train them every week. And the reason being is they're not enormous yet. There's still room to go. I think when I get to that point where I look ridiculous, then I'd think, okay, then I need to sort of refigure my training. So yeah, for now, sort of thing in regards to my training, I'd probably keep my training the same frequency, same training intensity. And yeah, I mean, there's also something to be said for training weaker body parts specifically as well. It might be that you just train your strong body parts after you've trained your weak body parts. So you've got more energy to actually train them and recruit the muscle fibers appropriately. Then by default, oftentimes your weaker body parts will take priority. Your strong body parts will become still activated, but there'll be less intensity on them because you've, in a sense, burnt yourself out a little bit. You know, we've all done training sessions before. We've started the first few sets, trained really hard, got a lot of benefit out of it, felt pumped. The last 2 sets, you're almost like spinning your wheels, especially if you're doing quite a high volume training approach. But what do you think, Sophie?
I think the individual knows their own body better than anybody. So I think if they feel like they only need to train that well-developed body part once per 2 weeks, then give it a go. Do you know what I mean? You don't know until you try. So it might be that they do that for a month, and actually they either notice that the gains aren't improving, they're not there, they're not getting stronger in that bit, they're actually getting weaker. Then you can readjust and, you know, look at it again and go, okay, maybe I need to train them once every 1 week as opposed to 2. Or like you say, train the weaker ones first, but still do your well-developed ones at the end of it. And, you know, while you've used up all your energy, you're still then doing something. Because I know me and Jonathan had the discussion of, because I've got a lot of areas that I want to improve more. He said, why don't you do either extras or do them first, where you've got the most energy to be able to push yourself harder for it. So, yeah, whether they try that, but I suppose they know themselves better than we know them. So,
What do you think, Jerome?
The biggest reason that I would take someone's frequency on a body part down to that infrequent would be, number one, would be by necessity. If, you know, they weren't making any progress until we got it to that point. Or number two is if we were trying to emphasize a weaker body part. You know, if somebody has a really, really well-developed back, but maybe their biceps are really lacking in comparison, I would consider I would actually probably start with what you said, Jonathan, where I would start with the biceps, and then knowing that's going to somewhat limit the back's development over the course of, assuming you work them out together, or you work out the back less frequently so that you have more recovery resources available for the biceps, which you're trying to bring up to that point. But in general, I do that very, very, very rarely. Would I deliberately train something that infrequent if everything else is getting trained more frequently?
I see. That's a good shout. Very good. We continue to agree.
For now.
For now. We're waiting. CZ appreciates the live chats and the videos. Yeah, thank you. It's very helpful when you have a platform with enough subscribers to look like a significant channel, you know, to a degree. Then you've got people that are experts in the field to give information on those topics. It's really helpful, and that's why I spent a lot of my time in the past researching before I started my channel. I didn't just haphazardly do this. I wanted to make sure that the information I had at the start was good enough. It was correct, safe. People could use it, and once I started speaking and explaining my thoughts and things, it made sense to people. So now at the point now where I'm having lots of people send me lots of messages each day asking different questions, and although it's nice to be in a position of what the word is, to be positioned as someone that understands what they're doing. You know, it's nice to know that you've kind of gained something over your experience and time. you're able to help people. It's challenging sometimes because there's only so much you can give. So I'm currently at the point now where I'm thinking if to drop my live Q&A sessions down to perhaps once per week, just because it is quite a strain on the system. The energy you have, the night times, the evenings that you get with your family, your partner, for example, like Sophie. So I'm kind of a bit reluctant to carry on doing these twice per week. But saying that, there's been a lot of information that's been put out in these. Typically we're answering between maybe 4 and 8 questions each time. Chances are, if you look back through all the live Q&As, you'd pick up on lots of knowledge that would probably help a lot of people. So yeah, I mean, if I'm going to continue doing 2 live Q&As per week, it has to be worth my time. The sacrifice that myself and Jerome, Sophie, and similar with a lot of other YouTubers, they make a lot of sacrifice sometimes to put out good information. So hopefully people continue to donate, subscribe to my channel, book in consultations, buy my services, join my Facebook group. I've got lots of information out there. I try to make myself accessible, so I recommend not just to you, Susie, I'm just talking to people in general, take advantage of what I do have to offer, and hopefully can help lots of other people out. Do you guys have anything to say about that?
No, I think that was well said. And if someone were to go back and watch all of the Carnivore ramblings, all of the Carnivore coaching crew, all of the live Q&As that you do with Bart, there would be, very few times that duplicate questions would be answered. So we're talking about literally hundreds of questions that you've given answers to that. And that's a tremendous amount of information that, not a lot of channels give that much of themselves that many times a week, that often. So I tend to think, and maybe this is just me being somewhat narcissistic, I tend to think we're going to try and give the best answers we can. And hopefully we get everyone to the point where the amount of knowledge that they build gets them to the point where they don't need us after a certain length. I want people to get to a point where they know more than the personal trainer down the street at the big box gym, and to where people they'll always have questions that come up, but where you feel confident in your ability to take control of your diet and your training routine and make the necessary adjustments to your routine to get the type of results that you want to have. With people in my studio, I don't want to train people year after year after year. I want to have them for 6 months to a year, and then they can go out into the world and they can go live their life and they don't need me anymore. That's the point that I want to get to. And I hope that doesn't come across as a big slap in the face to your audience, because it's not meant to be that way at all. It's meant to be empowering.
No, I completely understand your point of view. And it sounded, as you probably know, very similar to what Bart Kay said the other day. He said, I provide all this value to you guys for free of charge, all this information. And obviously he promotes different products, his own services, as anyone can do, monetize your information, monetize your success. At the same time, he said, I want to make myself completely redundant to people. So the standard of knowledge, like Jerome said, is so high that people no longer are misinformed. They don't have to spend £50 per hour plus for a 1 hour training session with their personal trainer in the gym, where they'll be trained under a 12-week course online, no real information given. It's not to say everyone's like that in the personal training industry, but that's often the time what actually happens. There's not a lot of science around it, not a lot of safety around it. Now, how can I justify saying that many personal trainers don't have a safe approach? And how I do that is go to your gym, your big box gym, and look around you. Can you guarantee to yourself that everyone around you is training with perfect form, recording their workouts, doing everything as they should, looking to aim for progression? Are they doing everything that we typically outline in these live Q&As? The chances are probably not. Then look around at the PTs at that gym and see what they're doing. Are they walking around under their jurisdiction and duty of care to make sure that the trainers in that gym are training safely and effectively and not causing injury? Oftentimes they're not. They're not giving enough back. Obviously they want to promote their own services and sell personal training packages, but there's a duty of care, and oftentimes I see people not emphasizing that. in the way that they conduct practice, and that's a shame to see. So hopefully this, at least verbal talk, will help people. I know it's not instructive like the videos. That's something myself and Sophie are looking to do in the back garden gym in the future, in the near future, actually, in the summertime. And I know Jerome's looking at doing something similar as well in his studio. So, you know, you can have a diverse lot of information. So I highly advise, if these verbal talks don't give you enough information, enough detail, book in for consultation with myself, ask questions through the live streams. There is ways to access us, and it isn't expensive. It is possible. You know, the Facebook groups, if you have Facebook, it's £10 per month. You know, was it like a cup of coffee or something, or 2 cups of coffee a month? It's not a lot of money. And that's the best way to access us. But myself right now, at the time I'm spending time in front of the screen, I do have to try and monetize my information, my time, and the value that I give to you guys. So if it is useful to you guys, please leave a like below the video, leave a comment, say, you know, thanks very much, or say you're completely wrong, you don't know what you're talking about, but cheers for saying something anyway. You can also donate to my channel, you know, donate to the egg fund we've currently got on the laptop fund. So, you know, it's all very helpful. And also, if you haven't yet subscribed to Jerome, please do. His channel is usually, I think, linked below in the show notes.
Thank you for that. You didn't have to give me a shout out, but thank you.
We do, you're right, man.
Don't subscribe to Jerome's channel.
Yeah, there we go. I want 0 subscribers. I just want to race down to that goose egg. Well, you're right. Like, trainers have a tremendous ethical responsibility to help their clients achieve the client's goals in the safest, effective, and most efficient manner possible. And any compromise on safety, effectiveness, or efficiency is an egregious ethical error on the part of the trainer. So one thing I look at when I go to gyms is, you know, are you seeing in the gym the same stuff that you see on social media? Are you watching the same trends come and go? Like, battle ropes was really big a couple years ago. People are phasing out battle ropes and they're doing more sled pushes. People will soon realize in 6 months to a year that sled pushes take up a lot of real estate, and they'll replace that with whatever the next big trend is. And I get it from a marketing standpoint. Trainers will do things that are more popular to appease clients. But to me, if you are compromising on one of those three, the safety of a movement, the effectiveness of it, or its efficiency, I view that as taking advantage of your clients. And unless they're presented with the options, listen, I think this is the best way to get to this particular goal. I know this is popular. I know you want to do this, but I have to get this put out front. And I suspect a lot of those conversations aren't happening. But unless you're putting that out there, I guess I really take issue with that from a training standpoint. And that's one thing that I hold Jonathan and Sophie in extremely high regard for, is they're just going to give. Jonathan and Sophie give more of themselves, of their time, of their knowledge, their experience, and more of their effort than any other individuals I know online. And for them to charge what they do, as little as they do, for the service that you're providing is extremely generous. And that says a lot about you guys.
I'm quite touched by that. Thank you, Jerome. I know you're always very complimentary of me and Sophie and how we conduct things, but that does mean a lot. And honestly, it's nice to actually hear that sometimes. It as much as you always feel good to give, it's nice to get something back as well. And just on that note, I've had, honestly, a lot of questions recently through my inbox. You know, how do I do this? What does this mean? What does, you know, lots of questions. And the problem is, to the guys asking them, it seems like they're asking me one question. But 9 times out of 10, there's a follow-up, then a follow-up. Then when you're doing that several times throughout your day, like, Sophie will be talking to me in the background, and I'll be answering someone's question on, I don't know, Facebook or Instagram. And that question might go back and forth for like 10, 15 minutes. I'm then almost obliged to provide the correct, accurate information to the best of my ability. So I have to focus on that question and give the correct answer. You know, you can't just put any rubbish out offline and fob people off. It's disrespectful. So therefore, I have to monetize my time nowadays, guys. I can't be staring at screens, you know, contradicting my own health advice just to give you guys a 5-second answer that you might oftentimes not take on board. You know, it's always good to get second opinions, but I think if you truly value someone's opinion, you'll book someone like myself in for a consultation. You'll book in Jerome for a consultation, perhaps, or even both of us. You know, oftentimes you might say the same thing, but it's always good to get a different perspective on things, because that might drive you towards doing something beneficial or not. And it might resonate more with you if you have a different person's experience as well. So, yeah, that's kind of where I stand. And I don't want to sound bitter or rude or nonchalant about people's questions online. It's simply a case of I have to look out for my health, and I have to provide, and I will not be able to provide if I'm not making any money, if I'm spending all my time answering people's questions all day. You know, so that's kind of where I stand. That sounds fair to people, at least. You know, I like Jerome said, I am affordable, so yeah.
Yeah, I think people forget how much effort goes in backstage. And I think I worked out last time Jonathan was at mine, I think he was here for about 10 days. I think we had 2 evenings together, and that was it. And I think one of them, half the time, he was answering people's questions on his phone, which is fine. Like, I get he likes to help people, and, you know, like he said just now, he doesn't want to give somebody like a half-hearted answer and it'd be rubbish or unsafe or anything. But it's like, I think people forget that he has a life, he has a partner, he has kids, he has himself as well. Do you know what I mean? He can't spend all his time helping people for free. And that's the problem, is people messaging him the questions, which is great that they, you know, they value his opinion. Book in a consultation, pay for his time, because he's well worth it. And like we've said, he's affordable. Like, I'm a single parent, because me and Jonathan don't live together. I'm classed as a single parent, and I could afford it. Do you know what I mean? And I don't have a lot of money. I've got 2 kids to pay for, and let's be honest, they rinse you dry. And I could afford it. And if I wasn't his partner, I would be paying for it. But perks, do you know what I mean? You've got to get perks somewhere. So I think
I do not have any bad reviews, guys.
No. And I think you going down to one video.
You'll never hear someone give me a bad review unless they've got some personal vendetta against me as a person.
Well, if we keep doing these videos shooting the sacred cow of calorie counting, I'm sure you'll probably start getting some bad reviews soon.
But I think him going down to 1 video a week isn't a bad thing at all, because like he said, he's looking out for himself. He can't be staring at a screen all the time, because it really affects him more than I think people realise.
Hence the red lights, guys. Hence why I've got 200 British pounds worth of red lights around me, and even the panel to the side of me is red, just because.
So I think, you know, join in on the only one that's there, and get in there first and get your questions answered, because we can't be on it all evening. So you've got to, you know, be there first. And we were thinking about doing like a members only kind of Q&A potentially. So I think it's definitely worth the couple of quid to be a member of his channel.
Yeah, I've actually lost a few members recently, which is a bit. It's not upsetting in the sense that I understand people can't be members of everything and pay for all the stuff. You know, you have to sort of cut back at times, and that's completely fine. But at the same time, I have Rick, who's been following my channel forever. I don't believe he has a card payment methodology. Our good friend Lambs, he doesn't use Google Pay or this sort of thing. Now, they're both moderators on my channel. That puts me in an awkward situation where they won't be able to ask me questions because they can't access the live stream if they're not a member of it. So it's quite, you see what I mean? It's frustrating because these 2 people I respect, so I don't want to offend or upset them, you know?
Yeah, it was just...
So I have thought about this quite,
Well, I appreciate everyone listening to that ramp. I feel like I took us down a bit of a tangent. I'll read this next question. So, thanks everyone for listening to that. Did I train hard enough? I did 1 set with the drop set on leg press, dumbbell Romanian deadlifts, and leg extension, but was barely sore the next day. This is the 2nd day now, and I'm not sore at all. I used a 6-second eccentric, 3-second concentric tempo.
That's a good question. So, by sounds of things, he's doing high intensity training with quite extended time to tension, because he's using long lowering and also long lifting phases. I would say he could perhaps actually increase the weight if that's possible. So if he's not assuming going to muscular failure, I would perhaps look at increasing the volume if his recovery capacity allows. I'd also look at the order of the movements. There's lots of things you can do here. So, for example, in the case of this exact question, if he is doing the leg extension last, that might mean I believe it's the medialis muscle of the quadriceps, the middle one, I think. Is that right? Yeah. I had to check with Jerome there. That's very hard to activate if your quad muscles are very fatigued. You almost have to be fresh to really target that muscle and effectively isolate it. So if that muscle is not sore, I might be pressed to put that movement at the start of the workout. Then perhaps the RDLs, then maybe the leg press. Now he's done a drop set. I would look as well at the amount of weight he has dropped in that drop set. Was it 20%? Was it 40%? Was it 60%? Because if he's like taken off 3/4 of the weight, then he's not reloaded his muscle at all. Then he's doing these like 5-minute, 10-minute workouts. That's probably an extreme example, but it could be that he's lowered too much weight. So you want to effectively lower the weight enough to continue the set, but not lower it so much that you're just making it easy. It becomes a cardiovascularly taxing movement and exercise. Outside of that, I mean, I'm guessing it's mostly quad focus with a bit of hamstrings. I'll perhaps look at training more frequently as well, if that's possible. But yeah, what do you guys think? What do you think, Sophie?
So now I think you shouldn't just go on soreness. Prime example of me today. So I did legs yesterday and I didn't feel sore. Like I felt tired afterwards, but like waking up this morning, absolutely fine. Then went into town and climbed a set of stairs to the car park, and boy oh boy was that a little bit tender. Didn't even realise, because I didn't feel sore kind of straight away or in the morning. And obviously I live in a house with stairs and I was climbing them absolutely fine. So I don't think you should base it off just if you feel sore, because some people, they just don't. Some people feel extra sore in comparison to what they did. I agree with Jonathan, maybe up the weight a little bit and maybe put leg extension first, because I think the order of exercises really does make a difference to, like you say, can you activate the muscles and, engage them fresh or tired kind of thing. I'd be a bit reluctant to add more training in, just in case they then overdo it, because I think a lot of people, if you say add more, they just go crazy. So I think it depends on the person as to whether they can sensibly add more. But yeah, that's basically what I've got.
What do you think, Jerome? Do you think there's an element to this question where the person would need to perhaps look at their training metrics itself and maybe their form as well? Like, if hard enough, are they getting stronger?
Right.
Should they be looking at that as well? Is it they're not tracking things and just assuming, oh, I wasn't sore, therefore I wasn't training hard enough? But then next week they're 5% stronger. Do you think that comes into it at all? Yeah,
I would say if they're getting stronger, I don't care how sore, how not sore somebody is. You should feel something, and whether that something is soreness or whether it's some kind of localized fatigue or some kind of more just generic fatigue from your workout, you should feel something from your workouts, either that day or maybe the next couple of days. But that's going to be highly individualized. Unfortunately, this question, I don't think the individual is probably listening in live, so we can't ask any follow-up questions. I'm curious how many repetitions were done, because even with that cadence, that could be anywhere from like 2 to 10 repetitions at that cadence. So that weight could be really heavy. It could be really light. Maybe they were trying to emphasize more quads. Maybe they weren't. If that was all they did for their leg workout, I'd like to see a little bit of, adduction or abduction thrown in. So it's hard to say if they trained hard enough. I would just go back to their next workout. What did their numbers show on that next workout? Otherwise, there's probably too much to unpack without further questions.
Yeah, I agree. There's very limited in detail in terms of this particular question, but it would be good if it is possible that this person followed up and provided more information. This just goes to show you the value of a consultation. Yeah. Like I just said, you might ask this question, well, this sort of question in a live. We'll give you that much information back, and you'll say, whoa, 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 whoa. No, I did 60 repetitions. I did...
maxed out the machine.
7 drop sets or 1 drop set, or, you know, or I use 90% of the weight or 50% of the weight. You know, a lot can come into it. So I think it's the value of consultation, honestly, guys, is unreal. I'm just going to quickly zoom through the comments. Yes, so Zbigniew asked to hit the like button. I agree with his statement, and I think that is highly suggested and appreciated. Goose eggs are good. Sophie and I are waiting on goose eggs, apparently, and I think duck eggs as well, sadly.
Yeah, they
avoid the mama goose.
They haven't got any at the farm then, at the minute.
Not good.
I think we've all been there.
Yeah.
Yep. I would definitely have to push a couple
the great
of
thing
vehicles.
is, Rick, I post so many videos anyway. Rick
Pushing
also
a car
has my email when we talk, so you know.
Yeah. Pushing a car or a truck or a motorcycle is a fantastic calf workout. You'll probably be feeling that for the next couple of days.
That is pretty sick eccentric loading if you think about it. Like a car on your calves, like that's nuts.
Yeah.
I've missed calves for like three days in a row now, like 3 training sessions. I've been too tight.
Well, they're tiny now because you missed 1 or 2 workouts that are just gonna.
Yeah, they're tiny, and the implants, Jerome, are leaking.
Yeah,
that's the issue.
Yeah, it's that cooking oil that you put in your calves.
That's where it's all gone.
People actually did that, honestly.
I know, it's insane. Those are horrible, horrible videos to watch.
Morons come to mind, really.
So Andre doesn't get sore from leg training, but it's a tough workout by the sounds of it, and he feels horrible when he's wrecked. But the day after, he's actually fine. That's a good position to be in, honestly, if you're, like Jerome said, if your training performance is good and you're getting better each time.
Mm-hmm. And kind of with what Sophie said, I have a lot of workouts too where the next day I won't feel like I'm sore at all, but then I might do just some random movement and just feel just a little bit like, oh yeah, I guess my chest or my arms are a little bit sore. I probably get that more than anything else, you know, with respect to soreness.
Yeah, that's cool. And guys, that's all the questions for today. And we've provided, again, all the answers on Carnivore Muscle Ramblings. So thank you for joining. And in case you guys don't know, there's a video out right now with myself on Dave Mack's YouTube channel, which is titled At Zero Carb. I talk a little bit about my experience with autism, the carnivore diet, and also some topics around bodybuilding. So that's definitely worth a watch. It already has about 5,000 views, so it's a hot pick apparently. God knows why that people seem to like that sort of thing. Very surprised.
It was a great video.
I know, God knows why. Just ramble.
Yeah. Anyway, I just wanted to make 2 announcements. So the first announcement is that I'm being interviewed tomorrow again by Dr. Sean Baker. So that'll be a delightful experience. I'll probably be red in the video again. I'll just see what happens and see what he thinks of it. He might just laugh at me and sound like a Martian. And what else? I then have a dinner date with a popular YouTube carnivore influencer who shall not be named at the moment. Very exciting. That'll be in May. Sophie might be there. She might be there.
I definitely will be.
I'll be on the 19th of May.
You should live stream that without telling that other individual. Just go live on
or
Instagram
audio
or
as well.
something.
I'm going to record like so much from that time. Then also as well, I'm going to be meeting a number of carnivore influencers and health researchers and professors and PhD people doctored in our nutrition space in May. If you're in the UK, the place to be is Sheffield. Is 19th and 20th. I might check my calendar. Yep. It's a 2-day event, but you can go to either one or both of the days. I'll be there at the venue on the 20th of May if you want to come meet me and you happen to be watching this video and you happen to be in Sheffield. And the tickets will be online. If you just type in public health collaboration, Sheffield, something like that, it'll come up. Type in Sean Baker as well, or Dr. Chafe, that come up as well. There's different guest speakers there. It'll be a good event. So yeah, I look forward to going to that and hopefully meet some of you guys there. It's gonna be a good experience. Oh yeah. Thank you, Susie, and thank you, Andre, for your questions. Cheers, Lambs. Thanks for attending. He is interesting. Very interesting. Right. Goodbye, everyone. I've had enough.
All right. Thanks, guys.